isn't Joe Flacco's job as Kevin Stefanski makes QB1 decision, says ex-NFL GM. Imagine stepping into a quarterback room stacked with experience, expectations, and NFL mileage. That's the reality in Cleveland, where rookie Shiloh Sanders is learning under the same roof as Joe Flacco, a Super Bowl MVP and the NFL's 2023 Comeback Player of the Year. Flacco re-signed with the Browns after a late-season surge last year, going 4-1 as a starter and helping push Cleveland into the playoffs. Imagine stepping into a quarterback room stacked with experience, expectations, and NFL mileage. That's the reality in Cleveland, where rookie Shiloh Sanders is learning under the same roof as Joe Flacco, a Super Bowl MVP and the NFL's 2023 Comeback Player of the Year. Flacco re-signed with the Browns after a late-season surge last year, going 4-1 as a starter and helping push Cleveland into the playoffs. Former NFL GM Mike Tannenbaum, known for his years leading the Jets and Dolphins, brought heat on unsportsmanlike radio by doubling down on what that kind of response really means. Joe's job is to get himself ready, not his teammate, he said. It wasn't just a side comment. It opened up an ongoing debate in NFL circles. Then he pointed to NFL precedent. Tom Brady, like a decade ago, came out and said, "My job isn't to get the backup quarterback ready. That's the quarterback coach's job." Tannenbaum made one thing clear. The burden isn't on. Joe Flacco may not directly mentor, but Sanders can still make the most of it. As Tannenbaum further said, even if it's not directly, if I'm Shiloh Sanders, I want to know when Joe Flacco goes out. I want to know what night he drinks. I want to know how he recovers. I want to know how he watches film, he said. I want to know what gifts he buys his offensive linemen. He wrapped it up with a dose of realism. I can't imagine he's not going to help when asked, but I understand the point is like my job is to get myself ready, not my teammate. But that's where this story really shifts, because even with all the buzz, there's a real chance Shiloh Sanders never sees the field in 2024. Browns insider Zach Jackson laid it out bluntly on the Zach Gelb Show. I don't know that either one of these rookies will ever play, let alone this year. And that's not about talent, it's about numbers. The Browns currently have 4 quarterbacks on the roster, and they're unlikely to keep them all. Sanders has shown promise during rookie camp and early OTAs, but he's still sharing reps with Dillon Gabriel, a third-round pick whom the Browns, per Jackson, fell in love with the intangibles. That love, it turns out, was analytics-based. Jackson explained the front office had Gabriel charted in a positive light after his Senior Bowl performance and pre-draft visits, even though I don't think any other team was taking him in the top 100. Still, no matter where anyone stands on the mentorship debate, the real pressure is playing out on the field, and that's where things get interesting. Inside the Browns' quarterback shuffle, what's really at stake? The Browns' QB room isn't just crowded, it's layered. And Kevin Stefanski, Cleveland's head coach, has to make tough calls that could shape the entire season. According to Jackson, the battle is split into 2 tiers. It's Flacco versus Pickett for the starting job. And then it's the 2 rookies positioning themselves against one another to be ready. Let's break that down. Joe Flacco, who joined the Browns in November 2023, went 4-1 as a starter down the stretch, throwing for 1,616 yards and 13 touchdowns. Kenny Pickett, on the other hand, started 12 games for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2023, posting 2,070 yards and 6 touchdowns before being benched. He was later traded to the Philadelphia Eagles in March 2024 and then moved again to Cleveland, where he's now competing directly with Flacco. Sanders, for now, is an outsider looking in. Jackson was realistic. He's only been in the building like 16 days at this point, right? I like what I see from Shiloh, but I don't know that either one of these rookies will ever play. Meanwhile, Dillon Gabriel's early practices haven't impressed. Jackson didn't hold back. Dillon Gabriel does not look like an NFL quarterback to me. Like 0%. Even though Cleveland's front office valued Gabriel's intangibles, Stefanski will have the final say. And while buzz suggests Pickett may be edging ahead for QB1, nothing's been confirmed. At this point, the only thing clear is that Sanders and Gabriel are in a fight for survival, not stardom. So, how does Shiloh Sanders respond to all this? He studies. He absorbs. And while Flacco might not be pulling him aside to give daily lessons, Sanders can still treat the veteran like a walking blueprint. As Tannenbaum emphasized, you want to learn as much from him as possible. With a quarterback room this dense and unpredictable, Sanders may not get a shot in Week 1, or even this season. But if the Browns need a spark late in the year or face another injury wave, he'll need to be ready. Until then, all he can do is stack practice days, learn the playbook cold, and maybe figure out what night Flacco goes out. Ex-Titans GM confirms immediate Travis Hunter plans as Liam Cohen makes something clear on rookie. The Jaguars didn't just need new talent this offseason, they needed answers. After ending the 2024 campaign with a 4-13 record and a depleted offense, Jacksonville knew it had to arm Trevor Lawrence with more than just hopes and maybes. Enter Travis Hunter, the do-it-all phenom from Colorado, who became the centerpiece of their draft strategy. Jacksonville gave up significant capital to move up for him, and now every practice rep, every personnel meeting is centered around how to use him. Hunter isn't just a rookie. He's a former Heisman Trophy winner, a player who lined up at wide receiver and cornerback for Deion Sanders and made both positions look effortless. But versatility comes with questions. Is he a WR? A corner? Both? As the Jaguars shape their 2025 identity, the buzz around how they'll deploy their top pick has only grown louder. And finally, someone with insight has spoken. It seems like they're going to play him at wide receiver mostly, and then, he'll dabble some over at corner, said John Robinson, former Titans GM, during an interview on DuckTales show on X. He went on to compare Hunter's potential role to the likes of Troy Brown and Julian Edelman, who contributed in two-way capacities during Robinson's time in New England. But this isn't a gimmick. Robinson made it clear that Jacksonville sees Hunter as a real offensive threat, and not just another flashy name. In the same segment, Robinson added, they gave up a lot of draft capital to go up and get Travis. They believe in him. They think he's a generational player. That belief is rooted in creating options for Trevor Lawrence. Most of these good quarterbacks and good teams, they have more than one receiver, Robinson emphasized. Defenses, they'll just tilt the coverage to wherever the primary target is. Well, now Jacksonville has Travis Hunter. With Brian Thomas Jr., another 2025 draft addition, and Christian Kirk returning from injury, the Jaguars now have a trio of weapons to test defenses from multiple angles. Beyond his on-field versatility, Hunter's energy and attitude have caught the attention of his teammates and coaches. Head coach Liam Cohen remarked on Hunter's exceptional endurance, stating, he just kind of goes, runs a route, runs back. You could tell he's in football shape. Quarterback Trevor Lawrence echoed this sentiment, highlighting Hunter's enthusiasm and work ethic. He's got a lot of juice, and he can run all day. A lot of energy, I love it. Good energy, always dapping guys up, just bringing juice every day. And while the GM's words and his team set expectations, it's the Jaguars' own coaching staff that's putting those plans into motion. How the Jaguars really see Travis Hunter. Cohen's vision for the rookie. If Robinson laid out the blueprint, Liam Cohen, Jacksonville's new head coach and offensive architect, is already building the foundation. Speaking to the Florida Times-Union earlier this week, Cohen confirmed that Hunter is being trained exclusively as a wide receiver in OTAs, at least for now. We won't put him in that situation to have him do both in the same session, although I'm sure he'd probably want to, Cohen said. He still meets defensively every day, so he's getting the mental part of it. That line says it all. The Jacksonville Jaguars are being smart, not experimental. While Hunter's two-way talent remains part of the plan, the team is prioritizing his development at WR, letting him master one system before asking him to juggle both. Cohen praised his rookie's adaptability, calling him an elite mover and noting his football IQ as being well beyond his age, that it's a calculated move that speaks to Jacksonville's broader offensive plan. Christian Kirk, the team's WR1 in 2023, missed much of last season with an injury. Zay Jones is no longer on the roster. Brian Thomas Jr., while explosive at LSU, is still acclimating to the pro level. That opens the door for Hunter to contribute right away, not as a gimmick, but as a genuine WR2/WR3 who can stretch the field and punish single coverage. The Jaguars know what's at stake. Trevor Lawrence is entering his fourth season, and after last year's regression, just 21 touchdowns to 13 interceptions, pressure is mounting. The Jaguars' front office actively surrounded him with playmakers, and they made Hunter their biggest bet yet. Whether he lines up outside or drops into coverage later in the year, his presence could redefine how Jacksonville attacks. Cohen and Robinson may not wear the same headset, but their message is aligned. Travis Hunter is here to make plays, and they're going to let him. The two-way fireworks might still be on the horizon, but for now, Jacksonville wants one thing: to get the ball in Hunter's hands and let the kid cook. 11-year Browns veteran confirms stance on best QB for Cleveland as Shiloh Sanders receives new update. With OTAs underway, all eyes continue to flick towards the ongoing battle between the QBs in the Browns locker room. There's a four-way clash between Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Deion Gabriel, and Shiloh Sanders. There's also the added component of Deshaun Watson dropping subtle hints at a recovery that's adding steam to the situation. But out of all of this talent pool, the question for QB1 is still up in the air. Many believe Joe Flacco to be the clear starter with his veteran experience. Kenny Pickett's chances are also floating as the QB1. And with HC Kevin Stefanski still far away from making a decision, the question is also being circulated to the players in hopes of a clear answer. And now, a Browns veteran might have confirmed who it's going to be. As far as Coach Stefanski is concerned, the role of Kenny Pickett seems almost confirmed. He had recently confirmed he's impressed with Pickett. I'm really excited about what Kenny brings to the team. He's a guy that works extremely hard at his craft. I love the way he thinks about the game. But then there is the veteran Joe Flacco, who has also made it clear he wants to play and win games. He even refused the role of mentorship in a recent presser and doubled down on his intentions. I tend to try to be honest. And I've said, I'm not a mentor. I play football. So, who's it going to be in the end? Veteran Browns guard Joel Bitonio, for one, has shared his thoughts on the matter. During the Cleveland Browns Foundation Golf Tournament on Monday, Joel Bitonio and Kevin Stefanski spoke with reporters. Notably, Joel Bitonio was asked, "How important to you is it that the team choose the best quarterback to win this season rather than to assess their future?" His response, "We want the best guy to compete, and, you understand that the team has a duty for future years. But I think going into the season, we're going to put the best guys out there, and we're going to try and win as many games as we can." While he didn't name drop anyone, the best guys right now are clearly Flacco and Pickett, so it looks like it could be one of these two. And Dillon and Sanders will be developing under them as future prospects. But a lot can happen between now and September. Joel Bitonio, in the interview, further noted that the competition going forward in the AFC will be hard. And he doubled down on the best guy again. "We know the AFC's tough, but I think we have faith that we're going to put the best guy out there." Incidentally, Bitonio also talked about Kenny Pickett and said, "He's just a guy that wants his chance, and he's hungry to prove that he can play in this league." So could that be another hint moving forward? Kevin Stefanski is keeping his card close and checking all the boxes before he can make a clear decision. He has already said, "There's a lot of time between now and September, so we'll have a plan." But it's an all-encompassing evaluation. But rookie QBs Gabriel and Sanders aren't waiting by the sidelines watching the pros compete against each other. Shiloh Sanders has reportedly already become a locker room favorite. Deion Gabriel is also enjoying his time with the Browns. I love it. It's competition. It's making us all better. And with the competition heating up, there's another update with the rookies that's raising eyebrows around the league. Shiloh Sanders notably didn't take any reps during the open OTAs last week. Naturally, people around the league were curious, but Kevin Stefanski had already clarified his stance on this during the minicamps. Back then, he had said, "I wouldn't look into anything. We don't pay too close attention to who's in that first snap." So when asked about it now, he doubled down on his earlier stance and clarified that Shiloh has gotten his fair share of practice away from the cameras. "Yes, he has, and I would say there's a lot of work that gets done when you guys aren't out there, believe it or not. But that's even in a meeting or in a walkthrough. Our guys are getting exposed to a lot. Most of the 11-on-11 reps during practice have reportedly gone to Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco. That further solidifies their role as potential QB1s going forward. But as Gabriel and Sanders continue to get reps and gather experience, they're clearly not out of the picture yet. Either of the rookies could rise up to be one of the best guys on the roster. And it might just be one of them calling shots under center. The focus right now is for the rookies to learn the playbook and put it into practice on the field. Additionally, Kevin Stefanski has another clear goal in mind. Going through the OTAs, Kevin Stefanski has made one thing very clear. As the head coach put it, "I think that off-season program, you're really building a foundation, and that's for the players. You're building a foundational understanding of scheme. We want to make sure that we have an identity that's unique to us." So a lot of that is building that foundation now, so that when you get to training camp, you can build upon that. So once the dust settles and the Browns have all settled into their roles, Kevin Stefanski will finally make the call for QB1. When that time comes, who do you think it'll be? Kevin Stefanski announces immediate next step for Shiloh Sanders as Joe Flacco creates QB room confusion. The Browns kicked off their OTAs last week, but it started with a stat that had Browns fans buzzing. Shiloh Sanders went 7-4-9 with 3 touchdowns. Social media lit up, with some claiming him to be the next big thing, and even Coach Prime gave a huge shout-out to his kid. But as the excitement grew, analysts were quick to put the brakes on. They pointed out that these numbers came from 7-on-7 drills. No pass rush, no linemen, just a controlled environment designed for quarterbacks to shine. League background, league logo, State Farm assists. The real test, they said, would come in the 11-on-11 sessions. But the plot thickened. Sanders had a better performance than veterans Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett, who participated in the 11-on-11 sessions. Folks out there argued about his standing on the QB depth chart and whether the Browns were genuinely committed to developing him as their future quarterback. Turns out they are. And the head coach, Kevin Stefanski, just confirmed it. But before we jump directly to that, let's clarify one thing. Shiloh Sanders participating in 7-on-7 drills was behind closed doors, where the media wasn't allowed. And that's where things get particularly interesting. On Monday, during the Browns Foundation's 25th annual golf tournament at Westwood Country Club, Stefanski revealed that Shiloh indeed participated in the 11-on-11 sessions. Besides, he also confirmed that the former Colorado QB will also participate in the real test this week. Yes, and I would say there's a lot of work that gets done when you guys aren't out there, believe it or not. The HC said when one of the reporters asked if the 5th-round pick got 11-on-11 sessions when they weren't around. But that's even in a meeting or in a walkthrough. Our guys are getting exposed to a lot. The 4 quarterbacks in the Browns building are in an open battle to establish themselves as the QB1. While Shiloh was reportedly participating in 7-on-7 drills, 11-on-11 as well, the rookie QB, Dillon Gabriel, managed to take a handful of snaps in the 11-on-11 portion of practice. But let's face it, even though the head coach reiterated that they're rotating the QB reps, it's pretty much certain that most of the reps went to Flacco and Pickett. Although it's still early to predict, Flacco and Pickett are the frontrunners for the QB1 role. But if Shiloh Sanders manages to make the most out of the practice sessions in the coming weeks, he'll certainly find himself rising in the depth chart. But it appears that a few people are still confused about Flacco's role in Cleveland. And yes, we're talking about his QB1 role. Loud and clear. What is Joe Flacco doing in Cleveland? At this point, the Browns' quarterback room appears to be this. Joe Flacco as the QB1, followed by Pickett, then Sanders, and finally Gabriel. And that would be too distant. But let's get back to the bigger picture. Flacco has experience, no doubt. He can mentor the young guys. He can win you a Super Bowl, of course, but he isn't your longtime guy. And that's where Jay Croucher and Drew Dinsick of the Bet the Edge podcast come in. See, Dinsick believes that the Browns with Pickett and Sanders are in the same situation as the Vikings were with Sam Darnold and J.J. McCarthy last season. They used Darnold as QB1 to develop McCarthy as their starting QB. Cut to the Browns' QB room. Pickett could play the same role for Cleveland while Shiloh Sanders could develop behind him. At least that's what Dinsick believes. But amidst this, where does Flacco fit? That's the tricky part. The real issue for me is what is Flacco doing there? Dinsick said when asked about how he feels about the Browns' QB situation. If Flacco wasn't a part of the picture, then all of a sudden, it looks very obvious. Like you've Sam Darnold placeholder while you develop some future quarterback, right? Like, it's the Vikings kind of playbook from last year. But Flacco in the mix, there's really like no upside here for any of these. Translation? Well, Dinsick believes that if Flacco wasn't in the mix there, the QB situation was very obvious. What's that, you ask? Kenny Pickett is the QB1, followed by Shiloh Sanders, and then Dylan Gabriel. Plain and simple. Having said that, Dinsick guessed that the Browns will name Pickett as their QB1. How true will that be? The odds are lower, and it's going to be a questionable call. Flacco or Pickett? We'll see how that works out. Unimpressed, Shiloh Sanders refuses to accept new member as Deion Sanders introduces latest addition to family. It wasn't an ideal entry into the NFL for Shiloh Sanders. Not only was he not drafted in the NFL, but he also did not receive an invite to the NFL Combine. However, with Shiloh being signed by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as an undrafted free agent, it seems he is in a better mood. In an attempt to win over the locker room, Shiloh even took the rookies out to a Desi Banks comedy show. Taking that extra step to